This is Pace the Nation.
When you climb up that hill, well, eventually you'll come down. If the wind's at your back, you never wear a frown. You're waiting on that second wind to begin to kick in.
What's up, everybody? Welcome into Pace the Nation, broadcasting back here at Studio 1A. We are, of course, in the heart of all things. That's Clarendon. I'm your host, Chris Farley, back again for episode 278. And I am flying solo today as Julie is off. I've got a big show to get to, so I'm not going to waste a lot of time. When Julie gets back, I got a lot to get into. We've been off for a couple weeks, and there is an explanation for that. So we've got a lot to talk about when Julie gets back. There was some flooding, there was some trips, there was all kinds of stuff. But that's for the next episode. Today, we've got a super exciting episode. I just said I've been traveling. I had an amazing trip last week to Chamonix, France. And Chamonix, France is the site of one of the best, most amazing ultra trail races in the world, UTMB. I was out there with my good friends from Hoka. Hoka took me out there, and man, it was a incredible week. Amazing races. Chamonix is just a beautiful part of the world. I'm going back. Whether Hoka invites me back or not, I'm going back. It was an amazing week. And excited today. We're going to talk about that trip. First off, we've got two guests. First off, we're going to have Karen Merlin of UTMB. She's going to join us to talk about what I witnessed out there last week there with Hoka. And then also, I'm going to have Steve Doolan. Steve is VP of Global Commercial Strategy at Hoka, and he was out there with me, and he was my host, one of the many folks at Hoka who hosted me out in Chamonix, France. For an amazing week. If you haven't heard of UTMB, this is going to be a really interesting episode for you. If you've heard of it, probably even more of an interesting episode for you because you know it and you know how powerful, how amazing it is. I had just kind of learned of it. I've heard of UTMB, but I just really learned the specifics of it and all the different races when I got there. So amazing week. I recommend everybody, if you get a chance to go out there, whether you're into running, into skiing, it's a beautiful, like I said, beautiful part of the world. And I was just really lucky to get a chance to go out there. All right. So with that set up, first we're going to bring in Karen, and then we're going to bring in Steve. So next up from UTMB, Karen Merlin joins us here on Pace the Nation.
Pace the Nation is brought to you by Pacers Running Stores. Pacers has 6 stores in Northern Virginia and DC. For the best running footwear, apparel, and gear, just stop by or schedule a virtual fitting with the best running experts in the business. Pacers Running exists to help as many people as possible through running. For every run, it's Pacers Running.
All right, welcome back to the program. And now I'm excited to be joined. She's all the way across the world, or in my view, across the world. It's Karen Merlin. She is UTMB's World Series Marketing and Communication Manager. Karen, thank you for joining Pace the Nation. How are you?
Thanks for having me. I'm really happy to be here with you.
Well, I really appreciate you making this happen. For our audience, this was supposed to happen previously. Karen was so helpful in trying to get this thing done while I was in Chamonix, but we just couldn't make it happen. I was missing a podcasting piece, and Karen, I mean, we were at the expo booth, and then you walked us over all the way through beautiful Chamonix to where you were doing interviews at the post race. You were really trying to make it happen. I really appreciate it. I owe you big. So thank you for finally coming on with Pace the Nation.
My pleasure. I'm glad that we get to do this. And I tried hard to make
it
happen. I tried everything I could, but we couldn't quite pull it together. But
you did.
Anyway, so
but we're here.
Yes.
And we're talking about UTMB. I had just an unbelievable experience. I'd never been to Chamonix, France. I'd never seen what I saw in these ultra trail races that is UTMB. In your words, describe for the audience what is UTMB and what did we see last week?
Yeah, what a week. It
Yes.
was just incredible. So UTMB, I think to explain it, we have to kind of take a step back and go to the start
Mhm.
of UTMB. I'm hopefully all your runners know about it, but in case they don't, UTMB started as a race around the Mont-Blanc, and it covers 3 countries. So you start in France, you run through Italy and Switzerland, and arrive back in Chamonix.
Mhm.
And it first started in 2003, and kind of became this mythic race of the Poletti family started it, Michel and Catherine Poletti.
Mhm.
And you know, it started with 722 runners took to the start line,
And that's
60
2003?
yeah,
2003. Wow. Okay.
and 67 ended up at the finish line. So it was just a killer race, and kind of got this reputation for being so tough. You know, it's 171 kilometers, it's 10,000 meters of elevation gain, and now you have to do it within 46 hours.
All right. So for our American audience, this was the first race, and there was a series of races that happened. Plus, you're involved with another series of races that we'll get into.
Yes.
171 kilometers, about 105, 107, 6 miles, something like that. Elevation is ridiculous as well, right?
Yeah, so it's 10,000 meters of elevation gain.
Wow.
That's about 33,000 feet.
Mm-hmm. And
So
you said they could finish. That is, you get a time limit of 48 hours.
46, yeah.
46 hours.
Yeah.
What are the fastest runners, hikers, walkers, whatever these people are? What are they coming in at?
Yeah. So this started as you know, there's a trek around the Mont Blanc,
Mhm.
and it usually takes people 7 to 10 days is what they do it in.
Wow.
So for the standard hiker, you know, hiking at a decent pace, it's 7 days. So
And
just to give an idea of what they're covering in such a short period of time.
and world-renowned ultra runner Killian won the race. Any idea around what his time was? It usually takes the mere mortal 7 to 10 days. What did it take him?
Yes. So he actually broke the 20-hour barrier this year. And it was 19 hours, and I can't remember exactly how many minutes.
It was 19 hours something. I mean, it's ridiculous. I mean,
And
he's
19
running
hours
the
and
whole-
49 minutes.
I mean, he's running the whole thing was just insane.
And it was such a battle. It was one of the most exciting races of the UTMB that I think that we've had. I mean, each year is exciting for different reasons, but this year it was such a battle between Jim Walmsley, who has moved to France, you know, to get closer to the mountains, to really take on this race. I mean, he's won Western States, he's conquered that, and now really his goal is to take on the UTMB. And Killian came back for this race. It was his 4th time winning, but the whole time there was no clear, up until like the last, I want to say like 10 kilometers, we didn't know who was going to win. You know, it was just like this constant battle, and each one had their moments of strength. Each one had their moments of struggle, and it was so exciting the whole time.
And up front, it was super exciting, but this is not just about the fast runners. This is a battle of wills for folks who are trying to just complete it in 46 hours. How many people finished or just roughly how many people finished the 171 kilometer race?
So 2,300 runners took to the start, and I want to say there are about 1,800 that finished, but I need to
1,800
double check
finishers.
on my.
Yeah. So it's just, I mean, there is a rate of attrition that you either just can't hit the cutoff time, or frankly, you just can't. I mean, you're out there and sleep deprived, and fueling's a big thing. It's just hard to finish this.
Yeah, and it's a big challenge, and the time constraints are pretty you know, steep. So, and you just have to keep going, keep pushing. So it was and on the women's side as well, it was a really fun battle too. Katie Scheid, the American runner, she came in number one. But again, it was between her and Marianne Hogan and another Canadian runner. So, it was just, there was no clear runaway. It was just really, really a big battle. So that's the UTMB race. That's the race around the Mont Blanc. There's also 8 other races that take place during the UTMB week, starting with the PTL, which is the Petit Trot de Lyon. And that's a 300-kilometer race. And the racers start on Monday, and they have just until Sunday evening to finish. And the first runners start to come in for the PTL on like the Saturday.
Yeah, and it was just a series of, and if you haven't experienced it as a runner, that's fair, because it's a really hard race to do, a hard race to get into. But just to experience it, just to be a spectator. I mean, I was sitting there with some friends with Hoka. We're watching people finish all through the evening and the night at a bar, drinking a beer, and people cheering them on. The energy is just unbelievable there all week.
Yeah, there's really this camaraderie, this special energy that takes over Chamonix during UTMB week, and it's just becomes this great place of welcoming runners across the finish line. And I get goosebumps even just talking about it, because it's so exciting. Like you say, it's not just the elite runners who finish; it's the mom crossing with her daughter, and it's just like, to participate in that and participate in this event in someone's life is so special. And to have that encouragement from everyone that's in the village just cheering you on to the finish line is just so, so special.
And we will tweet out and Instagram out some pictures and stuff that I took at Pace the Nation on both Twitter and Instagram. So, Karen, this is not the only race that you work on. There's 25 events. You can check this all out, utmb.world. It's a circuit of races. Tell us about the circuit.
Yeah, so the idea behind the UTMB World Series is to create a circuit of the best races in the world and most iconic destinations, and to bring the UTMB experience to everyone around the world. And that also we create a sports system that offers more equality and more chances to athletes, and also combines both elites and amateurs. So to do that, we've created this World Series circuit with 25 events in 16 countries, and that invites runners to live a UTMB experience closer to them, and start on their quest towards the UTMB World Series finals, which is the UTMB Mont-Blanc.
Okay.
And so
and how do how these runners qualify? How do you get involved? Some of the listeners here in Washington, D.C. who are ultra runners,
who are ready
to
even
start.
Yeah. So you first start by to participate in the UTMB Mont Blanc lottery, because it's a draw to be a participant, unless you're one of the elite runners, and we'll get into that in just a second. But for the majority of ultra runners, you need 2 things to participate. You need a UTMB running stone, at least one running stone, and you need a UTMB index. And how you collect UTMB running stones are at UTMB World Series events, and you collect them in function to the number of kilometers. So for the 20K race, you get 1 running stone. For a 50K race, you get 2 running stones. For a 100K race, you get 3 running stones. And for a 100 miler, you get 4 running stones.
Okay.
And then a UTMB index is to validate that you're capable of running the distance that you want to run. So for example, let's say you, Chris, want to run UTMB. You need to have at least collected one running stone, and also run a distance of 100K or 100 miles to prove that you're capable of going this distance.
Okay, that is okay. All right. And
there's about 4,000 races in the world where you can validate your UTMB index.
And let me just ask you, and you're getting a lot of people signing up for this. Like you're talking about these stones that you're collecting along the way, and then you got to validate with a 50K or a 100K. There is a thirst. There is a want for this. There's a lot of people who are doing these type of events. Is that the case? Are your races selling out?
Yeah, they're getting bigger and bigger, and
Wow.
people are more and more excited to live the experience and start their quest. But it's not only people that want to go to UTMB Mont Blanc. It's not
Mhm.
just people that want to run CCC or OCC. Um, it's also people that want to have that UTMB experience and that organizational standard, the high level of security,
Mhm.
the true UTMB experience, but in different places around the world. So it's not only it's people that want to get to Chamonix, but it's also people that just want to have an incredible experience out on the trails.
Wow, this market, this ultra running market is growing so much. It's amazing. Um, and the ultra elites that are running these races, they get in a different way. How do you get in if I'm Jim Walmsley who runs for Hoka?
Right. So UTMB, so then on UTMB events, the top three elites from each race category, gain automatic qualification to the UTMB World Series Finals equivalent.
Mhm.
So that's on a 100 miler, it's UTMB, on a 100K, it's CCC, and on a 50K, it's OCC.
Got it. And Jim's probably not a good example. He's getting in any race that that he wants to. Um, so, but what makes these series of races different than, because this is the best of the best. What makes them different than any other ones in the world?
Well, I think it's really, the history and the quality that the UTMB brand brings
Hmm.
to any organization of an event that they organize. It's the knowledge of what runners need, of what the security, the organizational standards, but also the values of sustainability,
Hmm.
the values of community, and caring that UTMB really brings as well. And I think one of the strengths too is that where UTMB the goal isn't to make UTMB Chamonix in every place we go. It's
Hmm.
not to have a completely standardized, homogenized experience. It's that we really want to bring the best of what the destination has to offer
Yep.
and combine that with the best of what UTMB has to offer.
Yeah, and you did, and you can't duplicate a Chamonix. I mean, how beautiful it is. It's challenging. I ran, I ran, I didn't run. I would run about 171 meters, not 171K, and it was difficult running up some of that terrain. But it's there's that destination is unlike anywhere in the world, and that's a huge part of it too.
It is so special, but it's also, I think, we're looking at what races have something special to offer as well. So
Hmm.
it's not just, it's really making a story and an event around the trail races.
Yep.
And there's one thing that we didn't talk about, and that's also, excuse me, is the UTMB World Series majors, which are
Right.
the continental finals. So you have events, majors, and then finals. And so the majors are what allow you to also double your running stones. And the top 10 elites qualify for automatic qualification for UTMB as well.
Got it. Okay. And you can check all this out. All this information again is utmb.world. Um, what's your relationship with Hoka? I was there with Hoka. Hoka's amazing. They're with you on all the series of races, right?
Yeah, Hoka's our premier sponsor, our top sponsor, and it's kind of this great match of they're born in the shadows of the Mont Blanc. Their
Yeah.
first races were, we're getting runners to test out their shoes at the expo here. So it's been really fun to see, how fast Hoka has just taken on and been, not
Yeah.
adapted, but welcomed by trail runners, and that they really found something that trail runners identify with because they're trail runners to begin with. So, and one of the founders, Nicolas Mermu. He's a longtime UTMB race runner. So
Yeah. All the founders were there. All the founders are there every year watching the race. Nico, Jean-Luc, Christophe, all of them were there. And they, I mean, they're authentically this UTMB, which I think is really cool too. So the partnership is just so perfect.
it really is. And, they bring so much to it. And I think it's just such a natural partnership too, that we work really well together.
All right. So I hope you get some time off. You were crazy busy. Every time I saw you, you were running the expo floor. You were interviewing people. You were talking in French. You were talking in English. I mean, it was insane. So I hope you have this week off, but what's next? What race are you going to next? Where are you headed with UTMB?
Well, let's see. September, we have 3 races coming up. So we're getting ready for Wiegstrobel, which is in Switzerland, in the Oberland Alps, and in Crans-Montana, if your listeners are familiar with that. So this is a new race to the circuit, and it's called Wiegstrobel, and it really lives up to its name of being pretty wild. It's off the beaten path. It's just these beautiful, beautiful Swiss peaks, and the picturesque alpine villages, and cowbells and grazing in alpine pastures. So that we have that coming up in 2 weeks, and then Julian Alps by UTMB, which is in Slovenia, in Kranjska Gora, with the beautiful Lake Bled, and there's so much to see, and it's going to be another really, really exciting event. And we have Nice Côte d'Azur, which is coming on the heels of that, and then more internationally, and for your listeners, is Puerto Vallarta, which is coming end of October as well.
A little closer by here.
A little closer. Nice and sunny and warm.
Yep.
And there's a 100 miler, a 100K, a 50K, and a 20K on offer, and running up through the forests, and through the jungle, down through the agave fields, and next to the beaches, and been really working with them they're really focused on bringing in the Mexican culture, the Mexican traditions to that. Wow. To that race. I think it'll be really, really fun one. We have UTA also on the lineup. So Ultra Trail Australia, the second largest trail event in the world. And so that'll be coming up soon, end of October as well. So that's another one we're really excited about. Another one too that blends so much local culture. You come up around the forest and there's someone playing a didgeridoo, and just have one of those amazing panoramas. And so, and then we have the Asian major, which is Doi Tanan by Doi Tanan, Thailand, which is going to be another great event. So where people can double their running stones and live a really authentic experience. And this year is the year of the Buddha. And so we have a special permission to run to the top of Itanan Mountain, which is the equivalent elevation gain. Is the altitude of it is the exact same as the year of the Buddha. So that's why we get that. Wow. So there's so many, and there's Kulamanen in Sweden in November, which is kind of like our Barkley. It's kind of one of those known for just being so tough. That's another big one that it's sold out, but it's going to be another fun one. And we have for your American listeners, we have some good American races coming up also in 2023. Canyons out in California.
Okay, I've heard of Canyons. Where is Canyons?
Canyons is in Auburn, California.
Okay.
It's out. You're actually running kind of backwards on the loop of the Western states.
Nice.
So it's one of, and so that's the 28th through the 29th of April.
Of April. Okay.
Of April. And then we also have Speed Goat, named for Carl Speed Goat Meltzer.
Okay, all right. Hold on a second. So what came first, the race or the shoe? Did the shoe get named because of the race? I assume the race was first.
You know what? You're asking a
don't
really
know.
great question. The chicken or the egg? I
Yeah.
don't. I'm gonna have to ask about that.
Okay, all right.
But,
But all I do know, Karen, is I was running around those mountains in the Speed Goat, an amazing Hoka shoe, the trail shoe that they have there. They're and that's Carl Meltzer's trail shoe. So
Yes.
Speed Goat. All right. So Speed Goat. I interrupted. Go ahead.
No. So Speed Goat is in July 21st through the 22nd, and that's at Snowbird. So another really challenging. Carl creates some really, really intense races that people just can't get enough of. So that's another one that really lives up to its nickname, and then it's a good one for those shoes.
So I guess if we don't want to travel across the pond, then we can go to these somewhat local races. That's great. That's good to know. Yeah, awesome.
And the full calendar can be found on UTMB.world as well.
Awesome. Do you travel to all these?
I can't travel to all of them.
Yeah.
But going to as many as possible.
That's
Yeah,
amazing.
just because it's so fun to get to be a part of, and also to be able to speak about the events, to have experienced what it's like on the finish line of Val d'Aran, and to see the beautiful green peaks that rise up just right from behind the little tiny village. You live it so differently when you could talk about it so differently once you've experienced it.
It's so true. It is so true. I have a different perspective just experiencing it as a spectator than I would have, before going out there this past week. Well, this is all amazing. You live in France? Where do you live?
Yeah, I live in France. I've
Okay.
been out here for I've been in the Alps for about 18 years now.
Okay.
And I don't live in Chamonix. I live on the UTMB loop. So I'm
Okay,
in the
okay.
Contamine-Montjoie is what it's called. It's a tiny little village of about 1,000 people, and it's the second, technically third village that people run through on the UTMB loop.
Wow,
But
awesome.
yeah, it's a great little spot.
Great spot. Well, Karen, I really appreciate this. This has inspired me to start training. I've done the JFK 50 miler. A lot of our audience, knows the JFK 50 miler or has run the JFK 50 miler. And this has just opened my eyes to this world of all these amazing events that you help put on. So thank you for that. And thank you for making the time. We tried to do it so many times, different times when I was out there, but it's great to have you on at 1,700. Is it over there? 1,700 hours.
Yes.
So Karen, awesome stuff.
Well,
Karen
my
is
pleasure.
Karen is the UTMB World Series Marketing and Communication Manager. Thank you so much.
My pleasure. And if anyone needs more information about the UTMB World Series, head to our website, utmb.world. Sometimes I get so excited to talk about it. I don't go into enough detail, and I kind of,
You forget to plug where
steps.
they can get the information.
Yes.
UTMB.world. Yeah.
And for sure, we'll get you on the trails. I'm sure of it.
Yes.
That feeling of, running up to the top of a mountain and running along the crest. There's nothing like it.
There is nothing like. I do road marathons. There is nothing like it. I might be a convert. I can't believe this. I'm saying that, but you've inspired me. So awesome stuff. All right, Karen Merlin, UTMB World Series Marketing and Communication Manager. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
My pleasure.
All right, there she goes. Karen Merlin joined us on Pace the Nation. We're going to take a quick break and be right back after this.
Pace the Nation is brought to you by Pacers Running Stores. Pacers has 6 stores in Northern Virginia and DC. For the best running footwear, apparel, and gear, just stop by or schedule a virtual fitting with the best running experts in the business. Pacers Running exists to help as many people as possible through running. For every run, it's Pacers Running.
All right, welcome back to the program. And now I'm very excited to be joined by the VP of Global Commercial Strategy at Hoka. It's Steve Doolan. Steve, how are you?
I'm really well. Thanks so much for having me on the show, Chris.
Thank you for making it work. Is that the correct title? I think I pulled that from LinkedIn.
Yeah, I
VP
think that
Global
global
Commercial
commer
Strategy.
yeah, it's a bit of a mouthful.
Yeah,
But yes, that
it
is it.
is. Well, I before you jumped on, I've told the audience about what an awesome week I've had. So I don't know if you're in the event planning business for Hoka, probably not, but it was an amazing week. So I've got a lot of gratitude. Thank you. What a trip to UTMB, man. So thank you so much.
Well, thank you for taking the time out of your busy life, I know, to
Yeah.
join us for a few absolutely magical days.
They really were, and we're going to talk about your UTMB partnership, Steve, with Hoka. But yeah, I mentioned VP of Global Commercial Strategy. Uh, what is that? What is it that you do at Hoka? A lot of our listeners know Hoka, but not everybody knows who Hoka is.
Well, Hoka is still a young upstart running shoe brand. Roughly 13 years ago, they sort of presented themselves to the public at UTMB. We'll probably come back to that in a few minutes.
Yep.
And we've grown quite a bit, obviously, over the course of that 12 or 13-year span. My role has sort of evolved over that time period. As I think you and I had chatted about, I was right place, right time in 2010. I was one of the first individuals to sort of support the brand, was a sales guy here in the US, and really sort of went from an independent rep, had an agency at one point, and was asked to join the brand internally about 5.5 years ago. Led some of our strategic accounts, and that role sort of morphed over the course of time to really working with a lot of the commercial leaders across the globe and just making sure that we're on a clear and consistent strategy, as hyper focused on run specialty and specialty businesses in general. And then, carefully adding what we think of as some of the larger format retailers that we think are going to really help bring our brand to a broader audience. So I do that with a number of different individuals across the globe. And then, we have some sort of big data stuff that we're starting to really think about in terms of what is driving consumer decisions. Where is it that we have consumers across the US? Sports marketing actually reports into me, which is sort of the link for me to UTMB. And that's probably where we'll spend a bit more time. There's a lot of different things that I have the privilege of doing, but I get to work with our marketing, merchandising, and product teams pretty consistently, which is really energizing and exciting.
Yeah, and you've got a lot of energizing and exciting products for sure. I'm running, and I was running actually in the Speed Goat, running the Arahi. Man, awesome stuff. So it's just 13. It's crazy that it's only 13 years old, the brand, and you've been with them. What number employee were you for Hoka?
Most people refer to me as employee number one in the US. So there's obviously some critical individuals that were in Europe. Actually creating the product. I just happen to be okay at going out there and taking no's and being really consistent with, hey, this actually is going to make a difference, and you should eventually try it. So resiliency is probably my key trait.
There were a lot of no's in the beginning, Steve. There were a lot of no's, but your rise in the specialty space has been incredible over 13 years. How did it happen so quickly? As you're I mean, maybe number one or number two in our channel of the specialty run.
I think that the piece that to me is sort of what links me back to the brand is, or really made me incredibly passionate about it at the outset, was quite simply when I took my first step in a pair of Hokas, it felt noticeably, tangibly differentiated from anything else I'd ever worn on my foot. And I wanted to understand why that was. And fortunately, the founders were not too far away. They were in the Salt Palace. When I laced those first shoes up, I walked over, I found them, and they literally explained sort of their process around how they had gotten to the design. That was that original Hoka, right? 13-ish years ago now. And so for me, that sort of connection to a thing that made the experience better was a driver, and made me ultimately believe. And so, off we went, and certainly got a lot of no's in the early days, but this really ties us back to the UTMB piece. The first sort of subset of runners that said yes were ultra runners and trail runners, and to me, it really the thing that it meant was, if you're going to go run 100 miles, it is in many ways a bit of a battle of attrition, right? Like, you have to preserve your body, you have to get the right energy, you have to prepare, obviously, correctly, and then you have to have the right equipment. And this was a tool, I believe, that could make that experience better. And ultimately, that's been borne out. And I think, that ultra running community was ultimately the first to say, I don't care what it looks like. I know this works because I can feel it every single day I run it on.
Yeah, and we had Karen before. We just had Karen on from UTMB. She talked a lot about the partnership. Let's get into that a little bit. Because let me ask you about the founders, Jean-Luc, Nico, Christophe. They are authentic to UTMB and ultra trail running. Tell us a little bit about them and how they came up with this, thick midsole that looked different than anything else on the market 13 years ago.
Yeah, they each of the individuals is unique and worthy of days of time. The probably the two pieces that I would connect them most tightly around is they have a clear understanding of how it is that a piece of equipment can make the experience better, and that drives them day in and day out. I think that's the first piece, and then the secondary one is they were doing adventure races in the 90s and early 2000s. And they discovered, 20 years ago, as trail racing was really starting to build in UTMB, came to be, that this was an opportunity to go and do another race, another event, and that's very much how they saw it. In chatting with Nico over the last week here at UTMB, the thing that I heard from him was, I had done these 7, 8, 9 day races, to start in the evening and, be home the next day in time for dinner. Like, that sounds awesome. Which to me sounds a little bit insane. But there you have it. But they got out there and they did it, and all three have done UTMB. And they also had been sort of positing around this, could you build an oversized shoe the way they build oversized skis? And they'd seen the benefits of side cut from snowboards and bringing that into skis. And they'd seen, oversized tennis rackets from Wilson, or golf clubs from TaylorMade, because they had R&D facilities within, that Solomon facility in NC. And then they saw the rise of 29-inch mountain bike tires, and they sort of kept coming back and said, could you just build a bigger shoe? And what would happen? And that's ultimately, that was the driver, right? It was like, let's just go and do it. Shape foam, build it, see what it feels like to run in it. And that to me is the first piece, is let's just try and build a bigger shoe. And then the other piece was, they posited as well that, hey, maybe going from these higher drop shoes, 10, 12, 14 millimeter shoes, which 12, 13, 14 years ago wasn't gave the rise to what was minimalism, right? Like, that was the peak of minimal probably in 2010. And they came at it from a very different approach, which is, hey, let's actually create a protective enclosure. Let's allow range of motion. Let's put a lower drop height shoe out there. And let's also protect and attenuate that energy and that shock, and let the person get out there and do the thing they're passionate about. So that to me is sort of the interesting pieces that were all happening at the same time. And yeah, here we are, 13 years later. And in many ways, those philosophies have been adopted in, a couple different places.
So, Chris, if you would put up a picture for the YouTube audience to see, I got a picture with Christophe and one of the original shoes, which was really cool to see when I was out there at UTMB. So the partnership, Steve, why does it make sense for the brand? This is a huge deal for the Hoka brand. Obviously, I could feel it. I could sense it. You could see it in the runners who were out there and the people who were wearing Hoka shoes as they were participating in UTMB. Why is it such a big deal for you and Hoka, this UTMB partnership?
Yeah, it's a great question. I think there's, again, a couple of different really clear things to me. Number one, it was at UTMB in 2007. Nico's racing, Jean-Luc was crewing, and sort of 70 miles in, he had to slow to a walk on the downhills because his quads were just blown out. And that was one of the moments that really drove them to go and be like, hey, let's go and build this oversized shoe. So there's this connectivity with these races, or with that specific week of racing. That is, I think, in many ways, the pinnacle of trail racing events across the globe. So to me, it brings us back to where we're born. There's a really critical, authentic piece that I, as an individual who has never run an ultra marathon, but has an appreciation and a value and a desire to support that community, brings our brand back to its roots. It reminds us of where we came from, and makes sure that we're continuing to build the best possible products for this really passionate subset of runners that is growing across the world. And it also allows us to partner with, the UTMB group, which They have a very clear vision about how they want to bring trail racing to the world. And that's a vision that we at Hoka absolutely want to support and partner with. And I think that the piece that to me has become so clear in getting to know the UTMB group and the Palettis, the founders, Catherine and Michelle, specifically, is the value and appreciation that they have for the trail racing community and for the experience that every single person that crosses that start line and gets to the finish line, or maybe doesn't, the experience, the highs, the lows, the battles that they go through, and what that has meant to them as individuals. I got that over time. When the conversation started now almost 2 years ago, there were individuals on a screen. It was obviously the height of COVID. And we got to know each other to some degree, but over the last year, I've been able to really spend time with them in person and value who they are and understand the vision that they have. And that has permeated Hoka, which I think is great. And we ultimately want to support individuals that have clear visions and that are going to bring running to more people across the globe. And in this specific instance, trail racing.
And it seemed like you were winning out there at UTMB. I mean, your product was on a lot of runners. That had to be very satisfying for you.
It is.
It was impressive. And it was across all. I mean, it was the runners at the front, the runners at the back, the runners in the middle, across all the communities of runners. You guys were really relevant, which was awesome. So I wanted to quickly touch on more about Hoka real quick. The consumer, for our audience, again, our niche audience of we got, a couple thousand listeners here who probably know you, but again, you're 13 years old, so you're not as well known. Who is your target consumer? You're not as well known as maybe some other brands who've been around for 100 years. Who is your target consumer?
I think it just is still somebody that wants to move forward. Whether it's walking, it's running, it's hiking. And that person that's walking, they could be walking in a distribution center, in a warehouse facility. They could be a nurse on their day. Regardless of who that individual is, we know that, what was originally just designed to be trail raced in, that there's these benefits that really sort of, I don't want to say miraculously, that's probably too strong a word, but have these clear benefits across anybody that walks. And I think, on your side within Pacers, my guess, and correct me if I'm wrong here, is that there's a lot of people that walk through the doors, you dress them, you're on the fit stool, you're helping them out, and they may not be ever going to run in the pair of shoes that you're selling them. But ultimately,
most of them now, I mean, that's evolved. Most of them aren't even running. It's crazy.
But there's a knowledge and a skill set that, the team at Pacers obviously provides those individuals as a solution, right? And that for me is it's a solution that allows somebody to move. That is part of the reason that we want to, remind ourselves of our genesis and our origins in Chamonix at UTMB. And part of this, right, it allows us to go and reach more broadly to individuals that may never run a day in their lives, and that's okay. But ultimately, they can feel the benefit of those sort of key design characteristics that we build into all of our shoes, and let them walk or run a little bit or hike. So movement to me is really probably the baseline, is just moving forward, A to B, whatever that is for you is cool and works. And ultimately,
I love it. So your target consumer is moving, is whoever is moving. I love it.
Totally.
And other brands, I feel like, are, you don't have to talk about specific brand, but other brands are coming out with shoes that look a lot like Hoka shoes. How do you feel about that?
I mean, candidly, it's not something I think about a whole lot. I think the thing that I get jazzed about is, and I think you got a little bit of the sneak peeks in terms of, what is coming down the pipe when you're with our product teams over the course of the last week. There's a whole lot more that still exists out there that I think can make that idea of movement better. And ultimately, our focus and our product team's focus should really be on, hey, what else exists out there in terms of design, in terms of materializations, that can deliver that in terms of fit. So for me, it's, listen, if there's individuals out there that are imitating, it's okay. for us, it's really the focus is on the future and what else can we do as a brand and really just deliver even better products than where we are today.
And you have been on a rocket ship for 13 years. Is there more you can do? I mean, are you reaching the ceiling? I know this is what the answer is going to be here, but I just want to ask you anyway. Is there more? Is there more consumers out there who can experience your product? Is there more that Hoka can do?
Yeah, I think you if you don't believe that every single day when you get up and like go to work, there's probably a point at which you're flatlining to some degree.
Sure.
I mean, that to me is like, I believe that in 2010, 2011, 2013, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22. I'm pretty sure I'm going to believe in 23. I mean, that's the thing that keeps you motivated, right? Like to get out there and get after it. So yeah, there's no, I think, shortage of motivation. And that's not just for me by any means. That's literally, an individual that's on our go-to-market team, an individual that's a product line manager, an individual that's, showing up and, doing consumer-facing activation at your store. Regardless of who the individuals are in our teams, they're hungry, they're motivated, and that's part of what keeps me jazzed too.
Well, it's been an awesome run, man. And I'm not going to take a lot of your time. I appreciate you. I really appreciate this, Steve. We had Karen on. She explained UTMB. Anything else you want to say about the UTMB partnership before we kind of get out of here? This is the 25 races. It's not just in Chamonix, France. I mean, this is a commitment for you guys. This is something you see as Hoka partnering with UTMB for years to come, correct?
Totally. I think that the one thing I would say, and the one thing I know that the UTMB team is focused on, is bringing more races to the US. And that's probably the thing that I'm singularly most excited about. I've had the privilege of seeing that energy firsthand, just as you did, to be able to harness that, to bring that sort of passion, to bring that community. I think that is probably the piece that I want to support that group with that unlock over the course of the next couple of years, for sure.
Well, I really enjoyed it. I got to thank you and the team. And on a personal note, got to really enjoy connecting with you. First day we were there, I got to tell this story real quick. I knew you as one of the first employees on the US side, had no idea that you were fluent in French. So somebody was looking, there was somebody who was there who spoke English, and it wasn't even part of our group. And they were trying to negotiate and navigate the ATM. And so they said, does anybody over here know French? And I was like, no, sorry. And then somebody said, well, no, Steve does. And he went right over there and helped her pull out money. Very well. Do you remember this? This probably happened.
Yeah, I totally do. Yeah, no, totally do.
So it just, I am terrible at I've had a hard time with the English language. So somebody who's bilingual like that is just incredible to me. But you grew up, just real quick on your backstory. You grew up in France and all over the world, right?
Yeah, U.S. and France are the only two places. But I was born in France, lived there until I was 6. We went back for 2 years when I was 11, and really kudos to my mom. She made sure that we did not forget. We got our grammar lessons. We have somebody speaking to us in French on a regular basis. And now I'm in my mid 40s. So there was a gap there where I didn't speak French very often at all. And it has come back to be incredibly useful.
And you can do more than just order a drink or help somebody at the ATM. You're like, you can have a conversation with somebody, which is amazing to me. So props to Mom Doolan.
Thank you.
Well done.
Yeah, totally. Allie Doolan delivering again.
Yes. All right, dude. This has been fantastic. I know you had to squeeze in through a lot of different things. You're in Italy now. You're traveling all over. Man, I really appreciate it. What a great week, and congratulations on all the success. And thank you for a few minutes of your time. It's been awesome connecting, and we will talk to you soon.
No. Stoked to be able to support, and happy to have made the time to come on.
Awesome.
Spend some time with you.
All right, there you go. Steve Doolan. He is, let me get this right. Again, it's a mouthful. The VP of Global Commercial Strategy at Hoka, and he does a little bit of everything there, including speak French, which is amazing to me. All right, he joined us on Pace the Nation. We're going to take a quick break and be right back after this.
Thanks, Chris.
Pace the Nation is brought to you by Pacers Running Stores. Pacers has 6 stores in Northern Virginia and DC For the best running footwear, apparel, and gear, just stop by or schedule a virtual fitting with the best running experts in the business. Pacers Running exists to help as many people as possible through running. For every run, it's Pacers Running.
All right, welcome back to the program, and thanks again to our two guests today. Karen Merlin, she is UTMB's World Series Marketing and Communication Manager, and of course, we just had Steve Doolan on. Steve is the VP Global Commercial Strategy at Hoka. Awesome guests today. Thank you to both of them. Big props to UTMB for pulling off what was an amazing week, all those races in Chamonix, and a lot of more awesome races to come, which will all be sponsored by Steve's brand Hoka, which supported me going out there. It was a great trip. It got me fired up to. I've done 150 miler in the past. The audience knows I'm a marathon runner and I run a marathon every year. That's well documented, almost too much. But I was kind of inspired, maybe not to run the whole 107-mile one, run, walk, hike, whatever it is, but maybe something around the 50-mile range up in those mountains. There was something about it that really inspired me and drew me to thinking about that for in the future. But that's in the future. I got to get through a 6-year-old, a 4-year-old, and a 1-year-old. Anyways, it was a great week, an inspiring week. I urge you, if you're a runner, if you're not, go, if you get a chance to go out there, it was a great trip. And I'll say this too. One more thing about Chamonix. Like, if you're in the DC area, I flew from Dulles to Geneva, Switzerland, and Geneva, Switzerland is an hour and 10 minutes to Chamonix. It literally took me door to door 13 hours. So if you want to go to a beautiful place or if you want to go on a ski trip, if you go to a ski trip somewhere in Colorado, it may take you 10 hours to finally get there. This was 13 hours door to door. So it's not as far as I actually thought. Now, maybe a little more expensive. Maybe you can ask Steve and the Hoka crew to support you, which is also pretty nice when that happens. But I do think it's not that bad of a trip. For me, it wasn't. It was pretty awesome. And if I'm not running out there, maybe I'll head out there for a ski trip with the family. All right, we've been off for a couple weeks. Thrilled to be back. We've got some great guests in the future. Julie will be back next time. We got a lot of talking about where we've been and what we've been doing. Some flooding in the studio, a lot to get into. So look forward to that on future episodes of Pace the Nation. But for now, appreciate you, the listener. Thank you for joining us. Thanks for Chris behind the scenes. Stoner, this one's been a tough one, man. I really appreciate all you've done. Of course, thanks to our guests, Karen Merlin of UTMB and Steve Doolan of Hoka. All right, for Julie, who's not here, I'm Chris Farley. This is Pace the Nation. We'll see you next time.